Howdy y'all, my group and I did our Deviant Act project over a college student's willingness to help in a deviant situation. We did an experiment where each of us laid out on the grass by a busy sidewalk near the MSC, which is on main campus of Texas A&M University, and it is a highly high-traveled sidewalk on campus. And we recorded reactions and possible interventions of people passing by. Although some people looked and some even laughed, no one stepped in the case that there was a medical emergency or any other reason that may have caused anyone to fall asleep on the grass. A possible explanation of this is Durkheim's functionalist theory of deviance, where the people passing by actually notice the deviant behavior of a girl laying or sleeping in the grass. Instead of wondering if she needs medical help or anything else, though, they unify as a group of morally good people, believing that there is a moral boundary between them and the girl laying in the grass. We studied the work of 3 other researchers as well as our personal results, of which there was not much, to understand just what may have happened.
We chose to have it located near the Memorial Student Center during the busiest time of day. This allows us to collect a decent random sample size of college students. Our experiment consisted of 3 trials designed to gain more attention to the Deviant Act than the previous one before. For our Deviant Act, we had a group member wearing normal school attire and sleeping wear and then sleep near the sidewalk on a bed of grass next to the MSC. The other 2 group members will watch from a faraway table to not cause suspicion from the sample of college students. The team members watching from afar will record reactions from passerbyers. The group members committing the Deviant Act will record a 10-minute timer on their phone to know when the time for the Deviant Act is up. The first trial uses the variable of normal school attire. Students typically can be seen around the college campus wearing t-shirts, shorts, and tennis shoes. We had one of our group member wear the variable of normal school attire while they committed the Deviant Act. For the second trial, another group member will lay on the same bed of grass near the Memorial Student Center. However, this time, they will wear a variable of pajamas. The pajamas will be the only thing changed for the second trial. For the third trial, the same group member wearing the pajamas will now have a speaker with lullaby music playing on it to gather attention by people passing by. Our variables are carefully designed each time to rule out the factor of people bystanding because the Deviant Act had gone unnoticed or that it was not considered deviant enough to react. Overall, our hypothesis for this experiment is that the social unification of rule followers as more morally just than deviant individuals causes an exclusion of the perceived rule breakers. Bystanders will be more likely to ignore a deviant act committed in public if they are influenced by their peers.
Reynolds and Kale studied the influence of physical appearance on our perception of deviance. It was conducted by showing participants photographs of different people varying on a scale of attractiveness. So participants were then given surveys asking how good or bad the person seemed based only on their appearance. The more attractive someone was rated, the more good they were perceived, and on the other side, the more unattractive someone was rated, the more bad they were perceived. So this could relate to deviance, as someone who's more attractive could be viewed as less deviant because they're more good, and someone who's deemed less attractive could be deemed more deviant for committing the same action. So this relates to Durkheim's functionalist theory of deviance, where the rule followers see themselves as separated from rule breakers, as attractiveness plays a key role in whether someone is put into that rule following group or that rule breaking group based on their perceived level of deviance from the public. So in relation to our study, we actually performed multiple trials. Our first trial was a participant in regular clothes, and the other 2 had the participant in a pajama onesie. Our first trial participant was likely viewed as more good and less deviant because she was in regular clothes, so more socially acceptable by the bystanders passing by. And for our second and third trial, our participant was likely viewed as more deviant and bad because she was in pajamas, which is more irregular to see and therefore more out of the norm, so more deviant. Another factor that influenced our experiment was the amount of witnesses who passed by our act. Hortensius and Gelder of the University of Tilburg in the Netherlands also studied this relationship between the quantity of witnesses and the likelihood of one of these witnesses to intervene in a situation. They analyzed a random sample with functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRIs, of their brain's responses to different pre-recorded crises and put in different quantities of group size. The results revealed that there was a decrease in brain activity with the increase of group size in the left medial gyrus and the left postcentral gyrus. These two brain sensors relate to an individual's intervening in an abnormal or deviant situation simply by their natural human instinct. These results could be explained by multiple theories. First of all is Durkheim's, and this could depict that the people grouped together over the deviant person and thus their willingness to help that person decreased. So this could explain the results because a larger group made more of a rule-following group versus that one deviant person, so thus their willingness to help decreased. This could also be explained by the bystander effect, which depicts people diffusing responsibility amongst the group and thus their willingness to help decreased. This could explain this experiment's results because with a larger group size, people diffuse responsibility more, and thus everyone individually wanted to help less. To determine which theory took place, it depends on the closeness of the witnesses passing by in context of our personal experiments. So friends who are rule followers will be more likely to form a union against a rule breaker, and strangers will be more likely to follow the bystander effect theory because they're just diffusing responsibility under the assumption that someone more qualified will step in. But if they're surrounded by strangers, then they won't know who's actually more qualified. Versus if they're surrounded by friends in a group setting, they're more likely to unite with each other because they already have a social bond.
In our last bit of research, we discovered that researchers Bennett, Baynard, and Garnhart of the University of New Hampshire studied the relationships between friends being present in a situation and how it influences their chances of helping someone in a situation that is negatively perceived. And they conducted a survey of a random sample of college students, and it was found that a significant number of the participants, which was around 21.45%, stated specifically that the presence of others or being surrounded by friends was a big support to them stepping in when faced with a deviant situation and not remaining a bystander. Their findings suggested that when a bystander is surrounded by more friends rather than strangers, they are influenced greatly by them in their decision of whether or not they're going to help. This influence relates once again back to Durkheim's functionalist theory of deviance, as friends can be more easily unified to become part of the rule-following class and be the righteous against the unrighteous, which basically means the less deviant groups or people or individuals coming together against a deviant individual or group or action in order to let the deviant one know that what they are doing is not the norm and may be wrong or even illegal. So, to wrap up the results of this experiment and bring this presentation to a close, let's talk about what we came to a conclusion on. So, our results proved overwhelmingly supportive of our initial hypothesis that the social unification of the rule followers as more morally just than deviant individuals causes an exclusion of the perceived rule breakers or the deviant ones. Our trial with regular clothing had the least amount of reactions recorded, which makes sense as this participant was viewed by her appearance as normal and therefore more good. So in this sense, she received fewer judgy looks and was not perceived as negatively by the people walking by or the bystanders. However, with the added experimental control of pajamas, the reactions increased drastically. This could be due to witnesses viewing this participant more negatively or more deviantly due to her appearance, as wearing pajamas, especially out in public, is usually more frowned upon and seen as lazy or unkempt. Because of this, our trial 2 participant received more judging looks and more laughter from witnesses walking by, whether they perceived it negatively or just found it to be funny that someone was asleep in pajamas on the grass. Then we decided to add another experimental control onto the pajama participant of lullaby music, and with this, the looks increased again, but only moderately. It wasn't too much of a jump, but the pajamas ended up having much more reactions than the participant without pajamas. And this indicates that the increase in reactions largely had to do with the added visual factor of pajamas, since the third trial was also conducted, as I said, with participant in pajamas. Despite the many reactions we received, however, we still had no intervention from any of the witnesses. There was one particular group that did creep up to the participant lying in the grass as if they were going to help her, but in the end they just walked away and moved on about their day. But it is possible that college students or professors are used to seeing students asleep on campus, whether it be outside or inside. It is more likely that on a university campus, seeing a sleeping student is not as much as an abnormality or seen as deviant as it would be, say, in a public park or at a grocery store even. So, to end off, as a society, if we reached out more often when met with a deviant action and intervened, we could foster a culture of helping each other and feeling empathy towards those who are different. In a real life situation, a girl laying on the grass can mean many things, and the only way to find out the truth of what the situation really is to offer your hand and help.